First of all, I'm just going to talk quickly about Machu Picchu. The Incas founded Machu Picchu in around about 1450 and was abandoned around 1572 from the Spanish. And then it was refound by explorer Hiram Bingham in 1911. Excuse me. Many experts believe that the Incas found the area of these megalithic ruins and built their Inca structures on top and around the megalithic structures that were already there. There is evidence of a huge cataclysmic event or an earthquake in the area, which would have hit around sort of 9 and 10 on the Richter scale, thousands of years before the Incas arrived there. And the evidence that supports that is that some of the megalithic ruins have been sort of pulled apart or shifted a couple of foot, and that's all in a southeasterly direction. And if Machu Picchu had been built all at the same time, then the Inca structures that are there would have been destroyed. But as it stands, they're still there. So that suggests that there was a cataclysmic event when the megalithic structures were there already. Excuse me. Mainstream scientists and academia says that it was probably constructed within 30 years, all of it, including the megalithic stone blocks, and all done by the Incas, 100% by the Incas. There's the weathering on the megalithic structures in Machu Picchu apparently far outdate the Inca ruins themselves as well. Also, there's, in these pictures that you're seeing here, there's no cement, there's no mortar, there's nothing holding them together. It's just purely an amazing technique and skill that we don't possess anymore, or we didn't possess hundreds of years ago. And also some of the leading people within like the ancient alien question for megaliths and things like that, Philip Coppins, who wrote the Ancient Alien Question book, also a bloke called Brian Forster, who's a leading expert on Inca structures and ancient technology. So they seem to think also that they was able to somehow, whoever built these structures, were able to manipulate matter, possibly in some form. So
the altitude of some of Machu Picchu is significant as well, isn't it? I mean, it's
straight up a mountain.
It's the top of a mountain sort of thing. Things like this, that's definitely several rocks. That's not one stone with like carved on. Those are, I mean, like for that is multiple stones, definitely.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Perfectly interlocking. Yeah, it's almost like they have the technology to liquefy the stone into preset sort of molds of the blocks that they wanted.
Because that looks like concrete.
Really,
this is where we see those giant stairways as well, isn't it? At Machu Picchu and whatever the other one's called. Its name's gone in my head. These staircases that are like 9-foot levels to them, sort of thing. So they look like a giant stairwell.
The so-called experts also believe that it was built by giants and for giants as well. So there's a lot of evidence, if you like, or theoretical evidence of giants and ancient high technology that was lost. Obviously that the Incas, or not obviously, but probably that the Incas didn't have at the time, with them being a Bronze Age civilization as well. But I mean, look at
that stone in the middle there. It's curved.
Yeah.
It's literally almost at a 45-degree curve.
And the thing with it is as well, in places like Machu Picchu and Saxo Woman.
I was wondering one to say. Saxo Woman. I think, is it Saxo Human? I don't. Yeah, it's a difficult one.
And Yeah, and you can see the Inca stonework on top of the megalithic stonework, and it's nothing like it whatsoever. It really isn't. The amount of time or uh, manpower, if you like. I mean, Machu Picchu had its height had, I think, around about 7,000 people living there. So it's, you know, you probably need more than that to do what they did.
The places like this, though, I think they cause so much mystery because you're trying to get your head around. This assumes it was built by humans for good reason. Why on earth did they build that city there?
Well, yeah, 11,500 feet in the elevation, moving those blocks up there.
Yeah, that's it. It's
the effort involved, though, far outweighs common sense. It doesn't. I mean, people, particularly when resources are limited, you don't exert resources on something without a point. You know, you don't build a city on the top of a mountain without a good point. You know, either defensive reasons or something like that. You just don't do it because everything becomes harder up there. It's harder to get water, it's harder to get food, it's harder just to move around at those sort of altitudes. It's the reason why I think it's almost as interesting. You could say it's aliens or you could say something else, but actually I think the reason for why humans might have done it might be just as interesting.
Exactly. It's a technology that we no longer or have never understood, depending on your perspective on who you think might have built them. But I don't like to discount human ingenuity. The fact that we've had the same brain volume for the last 250,000 years, according to Brian Cox from Wonders of the Solar System, but we've only got 10,000 years of recorded history. I don't think we were doing nothing for that 240,000 year period. I think we were probably building cities, civilizations, farming. It's just the slate's been wiped clean by cataclysms, more than likely.
It's not quite true, the 250,000 years, I think. We've argued this before him.
But it is. Brian Cox states it in his Wonders of the Solar System series, so yes. It's Brian Cox that's wrong then.
It's slightly more complicated than that, though, is the point. About 50,000 years ago, we had an evolutionary leap where the both hemispheres of our brain became basically better connected. Because, you know, you got literally two halves to your brain.
Yep.
When that happened, even though our potential for intelligence didn't change, our potential for imagination and problem solving improved greatly because the two different hemispheres of the brain could communicate with each other much better. So even though Brian Cox is correct, he's saying we had the same brain capacity. Our brain wasn't finished evolving. And there was a huge leap about 50,000 years ago that no one can explain. There's no understanding for it. Evolutionary psychologists are completely stumped by it.
Right then.
But they estimate that was about 50,000 years ago.
Well, there's at least 40,000 years missing then, if you believe that, rather than believing the 250. But it's still the bulk of the time, isn't it? We've only got a slither compared to the rest of it. And I just think that what we've lost in that time, we could have lost civilizations and technologies. We were capable of perhaps doing this in the past. Perhaps not. Perhaps aliens did come down and seed us and as a slave race and then built places like this for us, or gave us the technology to build it. It's a difficult one to be definitive on.
The effort is the mystery, and also we know that we don't know what we believe. We might have lost certain elements of these cities as well. We talk about Göbekli Tepe and stuff, the size and the complexity of those structures.
That's a strange one, that place.
Yeah, you just have to wonder, like I say, what was the motivation? I personally don't see anything up there that humans, I believe, couldn't do. Some of those rocks are obviously enormous, but leverage and a decent knowledge of understanding the mathematics and things, you can do incredible things. And also, isn't Machu Picchu not as old as some of the other sites that we're talking about?
Well,
when do they think it was populated?
15. It's not very old at all, is it, Machu Picchu?
1450s, wasn't it?
Yeah. So we're talking about 700-800 years. We were building castles. You know, what were they hiding from? What were they motivated to go up there for?
It is very defensive by its very nature, on top of a mountain. So it is a great last stand.
Yeah, huge fortress, and the way it was built from the Incas, it was so that it would only be a single file, soldiers like able to get through one at a time, you know, through the alleyways and gaps like that into the fortress as well. So yeah,
resources are an important thing to consider as well, because we tend to build things depending on our resource ability, and they built this thing in stone for a start, which is difficult to do. They didn't go up there and build wooden fortresses and things. They built a city to last sort of thing. That tends to be only if you've got plenty of resources. They must have had plenty of food, plenty of water.
Yeah, tons of it. Yeah.
Which is again seemingly unlikely for the train.
Yeah, and I mean the river is right at the bottom of the mountain, but like looking down at it from the photos and videos that I've seen, just looks like a tiny little piece of hair, just down there. So it's a long way from the water as well.
And a really long rope.
Yeah. But they were masters at being able to divert and move water about anyway.
Sorry, there is a question, isn't there, though, about that the site of Machu Picchu and whether the Incas did build it there. It doesn't demonstrate sort of two levels of building, really. The older block structures, which we have no idea what the technology is, and the later structures that we probably do think the Incas did build, which are vastly inferior to the older, lower structures generally. And that's a common theme we'll discuss probably amongst most of these places we're discussing.
A level of intelligence that for some reason we then lose, which is weird. Yeah. But common, actually. We forgot almost everything the Romans taught us for like 800 years.
Yeah, very much so. They took everyone back with them, didn't they? Yeah. All the bricklayers, road builders, cement workers, or mixers, whatever you want to call it.
Well, we had central heating in the UK and around the time Jesus was born, and then we didn't bother with that till like 1910 or something.